Okay, so this is part 2 of how to make plum wine. As you can see, I have the fermentation bucket out ready, just waiting, getting the other bits ready for the introduction of the sugar and then obviously pitching of the yeast. Previously I've got my testing jar with some sterilising fluid in with my thermometer and hydrometer, because I would like to take a reading. I previously weighed out 3 pounds of sugar, which I've put into a pan to make some syrup with 1 pint of water, and I've heated that up, as you can see, until it's completely dissolved. This forms a thick syrup. And it's just easier. It goes into the fermenter, and you can stir it in properly and it will dissolve properly rather than sitting as a big lump of sugar at the bottom, which isn't really ideal. It will just take longer for your fermentation to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a break and we'll join you again in a moment. Okay, so we're back again. Right, what we're ready to do now is add the sugar to the must, and we're going to give that a good stir through, make sure that's fully dissolved, and then after that we will be taking my previously sterilised jug and pouring some into the testing pot and checking the hydrometer reading. Normally I'd do this by siphon, but for just such a small amount, and because I'm not transferring anything off by racking, it's really not worth the effort. So what we're going to do is, firstly we're going to take the lid off of the pot, and as you can see, that's been sitting there for 24 hours now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sugar syrup, and then we're going to carefully, because this is quite hot, pour that into the must, put that in there completely, try and get as much of that. Oh God, the camera's steaming up, you don't want that. Right, so as we're coming out of soft view mode and everything's going back to normal, you can see that that's all gone in there now, which is good. So then we take our previously sterilised spoon and give that all a good stir around, because as I say, you want to make sure the sugar's mixed completely throughout the must. You don't want to make sure that that's wrong. So we give that a good old stir through. It looks lovely, it smells quite nice. Right, okay, so from here you can see that there's a plum there, not quite gone through the mincer. Right, so now what we're going to do, shake that off, and we'll just, using our sterilised thermometer, as you can see, I'm just going to take a temperature reading, because we might have to leave this to sit for a little while before I pitch the yeast. We don't want it too hot, and then obviously again we don't want it too cold. So we'll leave that in there for a moment. Have a quick look. And at this current moment in time, that's reading 27 degrees, near 30 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break and let that come down to anywhere between 18 and 21 really. That would be ideal. So we'll take a break there and we'll catch up with you again when this has reached the right temperature. Okay, bye. Okay, so here we are back again. The must has been left for a good while, so we're going to test the temperature now just to see if it's at the optimum setting for the yeast. So what we're going to do is remove the lid, get our sterilised thermometer and just give it a stir in there, just to make sure we get a nice even temperature from throughout the bucket. Right, and just leave that there for a moment. Take the temperature. Right, well that's reading 20 degrees, so that's absolutely perfect. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take some of that out in the little Pyrex bowl, as you see there, because I want to fill up my testing jar so that I can read the hydrometer reading. So I'm just going to pause you there and take some of this out and fill the hydrometer testing jar up. So I'll be back in one moment. Right, okay, I've taken some of the liquid from the must and put it into the testing jar. So what I'm going to do now is take the hydrometer and we're going to drop that into the testing jar, and I'm hopefully going to get a sugar reading. And that's actually telling me, I don't know if you can see it particularly well on the video, but it's reading about 112, which is very good. I mean, that's going to be a very sweet wine and quite high alcohol content. So what I'll do is I'll mark that down in my book as 112. Obviously what we're going to do, we'll take that out and we'll put this sample back into the must because everything's clean. We don't want to waste any. Right, so now that's out of the way, what we need to do now is to get some of the yeast nutrient. I'm going to have about a teaspoon of that. So take the yeast nutrient and pour it into the must. That's okay. Take our spoon and give that a stir around. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a dry yeast. It's a champagne yeast that I'm going to use because I'm going to try and make this quite strong, and I'm going to keep feeding it with sugar as it reaches a certain level. So that's that added. So now what I'm going to do is open up the yeast. It's quite difficult with one hand. Excuse me, I'll just put the camera like so, and then open up the yeast. Okay, so that's the yeast. The yeast is in the packet, as you can see. Now what I'm going to do now is the instructions say just to apply this over the top. So it says just to sprinkle. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just sprinkle that over the top. And it also says on the back of the packet there that sprinkle the sachet contents onto the surface and wait 15 minutes, then stir. So that's what we are going to do. I'm going to put the lid back on just loosely for a moment, give that 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll give that a stir. See you soon. Right, okay, so we've waited a while, 15 minutes or so, for the yeast to sit on the top as the instructions said. So it's now time to take off the top and give that a thorough stir in. As you can see, it's quite foamy at the top, which is good. That means it's started to do its bit, so we give that a totally good stir in, allow the yeast to really get all the way around there. And now that we've done that, that's pretty much it now. That's the first stage of the fermentation process going in the primary fermenter. What we need to do now is recover that and seal that up tight and keep that in a warm place between 18 and 21 degrees, as I said earlier on, for the next week or so. 7 to 10 days is what I'm going to leave it. So for the time being, this is the end of part 2. I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and as soon as the week to 10 days has passed, I shall make part 3. So until then, take care.